This is a podcast about what happens when old wounds meet adult love. We're talking about the patterns we didn't choose, the triggers we don't understand, and the moments where love feels harder than it should. We share missteps, the breakthroughs, and the deep inner work needed to stop surviving and start truly connecting. This isn't a story about perfect healing or flawless relationships. It's about awareness, compassion, and choosing growth again and again. It's about learning how to build safety, trust, and intimacy when those things weren't modeled for us. If you've ever wondered why relationships feel heavier than you expect, if you love but struggle to feel seen, safe, or understood, if you want healing, stay with us, because healing isn't out of reach. We're not here to save marriages or lower the divorce rate. This isn't therapy, it's education with a focus on harm reduction, personal agency, and making life a little easier. We do that through storytelling and sharing perspectives. These are our stories, filtered through our own lens. Anytime we talk about other people, that's just our perception, not capital T truth. How you feeling? You ready?
I'm anxious, but I really want to have this part over.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
We do have a plan for when we're done.
Yep.
What's our plan?
Our plan is I'm going to go for a motorcycle ride, or Michelle's going to do an energy session on me. It's one of those two. I'll just have to see how I feel when we're done.
Great. That sounds like a good plan.
We're recording this the day after Valentine's Day, 2026. We had a lovely Valentine's Day, and that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go into this, I'm filled with a lot of appreciation for you, Michelle, I don't know how you fit in everything that you do. I know you give attention to me all the time, and then somehow manage to still fill the dishwasher and do all the little things around the house that I don't do. So anyway,
yeah, but you do a lot around the house.
I do try to help. Maybe that's how I can appreciate
when
you get it done. So it seems effortlessly, although I know it's not.
Thanks, honey.
Anyway.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do we begin for you? You were so great for me during my long thing.
I think we begin at Abram's birth.
Okay.
So Abram's birth.
Our second.
He was born, our second child. He was born in 1999. I'm a second child in my family, second out of 6. And when he was born, I felt that a lot of your attention was going to him and not me.
Right.
And we also had the older son. So I ended up in therapy for the first time to get that addressed. It was Dr. Susan Carcelli, who I really appreciated.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of sessions, and I thought when I was done, we had figured it out. The biggest thing I got out of there was she said I didn't have to give people answers right away. I could ask, hey, can I get back to you on that? And then I could have time to think about my response before I actually respond, instead of maybe just people pleasing and saying what needs to be said right then, or going the other way and responding negatively.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
Yeah, little context, just because. So he was born, and I think it was within a few weeks at least. I woke up in the middle of the night because you're getting with the baby. I don't know why. And you were in bed. So I went looking for you, and you were down in our basement and bending over a little bit. And you weren't crying, but you were just really sad. And you were like, I don't think you'll ever love me again. And I was really surprised because my first birth had been difficult. There had been a little bit of complications. And so this one had gone so well, and I was in such a good mood. I don't know what I did at that time, but I remember sitting on our back patio sometime after and saying, I think you need some therapy or something. So yeah, so you found her in the yellow pages,
Yeah, in the phone
which
book.
she was like, don't do that.
Don't do that again. Get a referral, find someone who knows someone, do something different, not just a phone
Yeah.
book. But you got lucky this time.
And so you went probably, I think, 5 times.
I think so.
And I remember you coming home and saying, yeah, she probably says I need just a couple more and then I'm good. And I was like, oh, good. And then never,
Then never went back.
which is probably typical.
Okay. So if you want to go even further than that, in college,
Yeah.
one time I went to the psychologist, the therapist at college,
Yeah.
and told him a little bit what was going on. And he said, oh, yeah, you have some issues to work on. Definitely come back.
Mhm.
And I definitely never went back to him because that wasn't what I wanted to hear.
Right. Right. So those were maybe some little teeny taps on the shoulder.
Yep.
And the first one you ran away from, the second one you dipped your toe in and you got
Yep.
something that you really, I remember that being really impactful for you, that she had said, you can say, give me a, can I get back to you? That was like this revelation thing for you.
That's right. So then jump ahead to so about July 2008 when I was set as the elders quorum president in the ward, which is the leader over men about 18 to 40 or 45. They hold the Melchizedek priesthood. Then you got the high priest above that. At this time, we met separately and we're over different people. Um, so I'm called as elders quorum president. The bishop is really pushing us to do a good job. He's perfectionistically driven to be all that he can be, and um, he's also in his job in a position of authority as the city manager and used to knowing how power is wielded and how things get done, where I hadn't ever had an experience like that before.
Mm.
My background coming into it was I've been doing software, and software development, when you write it, it's kind of like writing a book. What you end up writing reflects the organization that wrote it, reflects the person that wrote it, reflects the motivations and understandings of the person that writes it. And
Mm.
so it's really important in software. I had learned recently that as a developer, you understand why you're doing things, how to do things the best way, and really be committed to make things happen, or else they just don't happen as well as they could.
Mm.
And I'd also read this book. It's called Defining Moments, that talks about how each decision you make defines who you are more as you go forward. And so this kind of thinking was really on my mind because I'd been trying to figure out what's wrong with me and self improve
Mm.
through books and through study and work for a long time because I did feel like something's wrong with me. And anyhow, the bishop really wanted committees formed with the men. The church had at the time 3 committees that the elders quorum was supposed to be split up into, and you really wanted this done. I thought it was maybe overkill for the time.
I'm laughing because did you, up until that point, we'd been married 14 years. Had you ever known what committee you were on, participated in a committee, and like had meetings and been like, it was significant part of your
Yeah,
membership?
there was a time when I was put on a committee and I knew I was on the committee with 30 other people, and we never really met or did anything. It was just kind of like
A label.
a label, which was, you know, if you're going to have a meeting, it's got to take a really good meeting to having a meeting over no meeting at all. I really believe in that
Right.
philosophy. You can really just spend time in meetings and machinations. The corporations that are always doing the reorg. That's what
Mm-hmm.
it's about.
On paper, it's a good idea. You split people into, you're going to be in charge of this. I mean, the idea was, yeah, I don't even know because
Right.
it's so not a non-issue. Like the women don't even know what that's all about.
Yeah, I think the idea is that everybody who is in the group would have a job
Right.
and a responsibility, and that would help them be more committed to the organization, and it would help the organization achieve its goals better. So the idea behind it is good,
Right.
is well intentioned,
Right.
I would
Right.
say,
Right.
but the execution of it was clunky.
Well, and particularly you didn't want to do it, not because it was dumb, but because we were a brand new ward and you wanted to build some unity first.
Yeah, I wanted it to be the right time, and I wanted it to be effective when I did it, not fail or just be something that no one really cared about. I wanted us to all be engaged in a good cause and improving the ward and improving ourselves.
Right.
And I didn't see how that could be accomplished through the committees yet. And so the bishop had us trained by someone came in from the stake, and we did a training on it. Still didn't quite see it.
Training guy was like, yeah, it really doesn't work. You really just need to love the guys, which was what your argument was.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't, you were the president, but you had a presidency. And so you were the voice of that presidency, but you guys had made decisions together. So it wasn't just you being stubborn.
Right. The presidency, the first and second counselor, and secretary.
Mm-hmm.
So there were four of us there. Yep. And they weren't sure what to do either.
Right.
Poor guys, because how could they argue against me if I'm arguing against it? But then the bishop's saying, hey, you need to do this. So they're in a tough spot too.
That's true.
But so that was going on from about July until about December. And December 9th, we had a meeting. It was the priesthood executive committee of the ward, where basically the male leaders of the ward meet before they meet with the women leaders of the ward.
Yes.
And in this male leadership meeting, the bishop asked me, have you assigned your quorum members to committees yet? And I said, no, I haven't yet. I'm not sure how I want to go about that. And he said, well, will you do it by December 21st? And I said, if you're giving me a command to do it by December 21st, I'll do that, because, the hierarchy, he's in command, he's in charge. And he just responded, will you do it by December 21st? He didn't clarify if it's a command or not. And I said, hey, can I get back to you on that? Because I had previous training on how to say, when I don't have the answer, how to buy some time.
In that moment, you were feeling, I'm sure, physically that melty, stressed, fight, flight, freezer feelings.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why you were saying, can I have a minute? Because you were dysregulated.
Oh, I couldn't even think.
Right. So it wasn't even about the conversation. You were not in your body fully in control in that moment. And that's why you said, can I get back to you?
Right. And I wasn't alone with the bishop at this time. There were like 6 of us men in there, I think.
It was humiliating.
It was, well, the next part was especially humiliating. So I said, can I get back to you on this? And he said, you've just disobeyed a direct order from your priesthood authority, which is like, you're going to hell, basically, to me.
Right. That's what it felt like.
What it felt like. And I said, okay, fine.
I can't even imagine how you got through the rest of that meeting.
Yeah, I can't even remember. Actually, I don't know what I said. I don't really remember. The white hot anger wasn't coming up inside, and I probably looked like nothing was going on the outside, but I was furious on the inside.
And that's when we talked about on mine, where you were actually leaving that day to go on a work trip. And it was kind of stressful.
Yeah.
So you were going to be gone a week. And it was December, and it was stressful.
Yeah, I think my flight was at like 2 p.m. and I did leave right after this meeting, go to the airport. I didn't have enough time to process with you before going.
Nope.
It was terrible.
It was horrible.
After that, the bishop said, hey, I think Monte has psychological problems and should go to a therapist, and suggested the LDS therapist that I went to.
Well, I'm the one that went in during that week. I went and met with him, and I said, and I was trying to plead, like, look, we're trying to figure out some stuff here. And I was like, I just, I think I was in there for well over an hour. I'm like, and I mean, I was just vomiting all this, like, all the health stuff you were going through. I said, I don't even know, but I was like, you need to be careful with him. There's something he's working out. Like he's got to figure out some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he told me at that time, but I remember we were we were at the temple and he came over and just handed you a card and said, here, and I've talked to these people. This is going to be your therapist.
Yep.
If I'm honest, at that I was hopeful because you were stressed more than, but there was that part too that was like, this is awkward. But he's the leader, so you question yourself before you question him. That was the programming. That's how
Right.
you just do.
So we started therapy there, and it was helpful for a while.
At first, he was the one that's like, yeah, that's not okay,
Yeah.
which was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
basically taught you how to just check out at those meetings, honestly.
He did, right. I remember him telling me specifically, hey, when things get heated there, just think of something else.
Yep.
And I remember thinking in one of the meetings about my buddy on his motorcycle. We went on a motorcycle ride down in southern Utah, and he climbed a cliff on his motorcycle, and it freaked me out. It was so scary. But that's where I went to and thought about that, and it was quite relieving.
Right.
To be able to just check out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might run an OCD clinic now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he was helpful.
He was helpful.
He moved away from the LDS social services while we were working with him, and then opened his own practice. And you could tell when he opened his own practice, because we had to move buildings a few times, it was super stressful. Like his focus was a little different.
Yeah.
His window of tolerance was a little shorter, I would say, after that move.
Yes. He got to talking about the FUBU monster. You need to address the FUBU monster when it's like a small plant. If it's like a thistle, pull it out while it's small, address the issues while they're small so they don't become too big.
Right.
Okay.
But in the meantime, you were still dealing every Sunday. I mean, we're talking, there used to be, because I've been in those meetings too. You had the men all got together for a meeting, and then the women came in, and at that time specifically, every other Sunday, there would be just the Relief Society president, which that was me at one point, and all the men. And so you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 men and 1 woman. Every other week you had all the 3 women leaders with all of those men. So, but there was every other week I was by myself with all the men.
Oh yeah.
And
I forget what
but that was the
called.
second meeting. Yeah, that was the second meeting after you had already met as men.
Yes.
So every single Sunday. And if church started at 9 a.m., you had them before. So it was 7 a.m.
Yep.
You were at which happened in, I think, 2009 was when that started. And
even on Mother's Day, even on Father's Day.
Yeah, you did not miss a day. Nope, you didn't miss a day.
Yeah. And the reason why this was such a big issue to me about the committees and doing it right was because I believed, I believed really strongly the church was my foundation. It was what I held on to get me through life. It was my plan for execution. And if things weren't going well, that was because I hadn't given enough or done it properly or done enough. And I really wanted to do it well, not only for me, but for all my friends and neighbors and fellow ward members, quorum members, so that we could have a good experience together and all our lives could be better. I really wanted that.
Yeah.
It was because I cared so much about it, foreshadowing there were parts of my life I didn't care about that I probably should have cared about more. And foreshadowing the fact that I lived externally a little bit in the authority I put for my life at the church. I didn't put the authority inside myself.
Hindsight.
Yeah, exactly. And so when this happened, this blow up happened with the bishop, it was extremely painful psychologically for me. I had also had a painful work experience where I had left a company a year or two previously that was really painful to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And the new company, promises of family being so important
Yep.
and good values, and it was all facade. So, which was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so it gets about to be June, and the bishop tells us that we have this thing called home teaching where a couple elders in the quorum are assigned to go visit some families in the ward. So I might be assigned to 2 or 3 families. Another guy might be assigned to 2 or 3 other families, and another companion. Kind of like missionaries, they always have a companion. Home teachers have a companion. So 2 men go into the family and give them a little lesson. Usually ask them how they're doing, check on them, and leave. But they have some personal connection. And this, we typically got around 50%, maybe sometimes more, sometimes less, but we always pushed people to do it. And
Numbers were big in that particular.
numbers were tracked. You had to report, you had to call and report. Did you do it? Did you not? And then that was monitored and tracked. And the bishop really wanted to look good and optimized. And I wanted to look good. We wanted those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But one day, early June, I think, it could have been late May, a brother shows up at the bishop's porch, and his wife had left him, and he was just sad. And the bishop later was thinking about it, sitting in his big chair down in the basement. I imagine him in his like big lazy boy thinking about it. I know what needs to happen. He had a revelation that it's because the home teaching and visiting teaching, which is what the women do, the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
was not getting done in the ward. So he came up with a plan that if the visiting teaching or home teaching, the elders, the leaders would call on the 15th of the month, and if it hadn't been done, then they would go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that everybody got visited no matter what. Which I'll also add here, at this point, I'm the father of 4.
Mm-hmm. Your youngest is 2.
I'm a sole provider. Yeah, the youngest is 2. Sole provider. Like Michelle did bring in some income and was doing some work, but for the house and for a lot of things, I was a sole provider, and that's a lot of pressure
Mm-hmm.
to balance that, and then to work all day, come home, and then work all night for the church was really hard. And I ended up meeting with the stake during this time, and he had printed out a talk by an apostle who is like a higher church leader saying, gone are the days that we do that. The Elders Quorum doesn't do the home teaching. The Elders Quorum presidency doesn't do that anymore. We're not command and control as much.
It's interesting that he gave that to you, because he gave it to you days before. So be so specific to give that one of a million talks to you days before. All of a sudden, guess what? That's the new assignment. Is the very thing that they told you to not worry, to not do.
Exactly. And, when he was telling me, he's like, hey, you're doing okay. Just keep trying. You don't have to go overboard. Just give what you can.
Every other person was like, it's fine.
Exactly.
But not on a Sunday.
So I took the article to the bishop. We talked about it, and I said, I don't think this is right. This is what the priesthood leaders have said to do above you. And he didn't read the article, pushed it to the side, and said, you can't pick and choose the words of your priesthood leaders that you're going to follow, which is exactly what he was doing. So it did not make any sense. And we had meetings for a couple hours, him and I, and then the next week, a couple more hours. And then the next week, I got called in stake and released. And the bishop, when I talked to the bishop, he said, I just felt like the Spirit was telling me it's time for your release, which it was early because you're usually in a couple of years. And I'd been in about a year. And so, and like Michelle mentioned, other people got shaken up too. There was the reorg. Was going to solve everything.
It was so icky. It was
very icky. And something in me knew it was not right.
Mm-hmm.
during this time, so in preparation for meeting with the bishop, I remember going to the Bountiful Temple, and I went to the temple. I think I was by myself. I
Oh,
remember it. Michelle wasn't there. It was during the day. I might have taken off work to even go because I really needed some
uh-huh.
direction. And I was going to get it from God. And I ended up going up to the veil part of the temple, and the person on the other side, that's just a cloth separator, said some things that were from the temple ceremony, which had been changed, but he said the old stuff from prior to 1992,
Which before our time.
before our time. And um,
How did you feel in that moment, or what was going on? Can you remember in that moment when you heard that stuff?
yeah, I felt compassion for the person on the other side
Okay.
of
Okay.
the veil. Like, oh, poor person's losing their mind,
Oh
doesn't
no.
know what they're saying.
Right. Right, right,
You
right.
know, just like, oh, that's rough. Sorry,
Right.
dude.
Okay.
Then I get into the celestial room. I'm sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, oh, that was really weird.
Mm-hmm.
What did that person? They seemed to know what they were saying, and it seemed to like the worker who came to help them seemed to know that that's not the right thing to say. And I mean, they have a script. He wasn't following the script, but it seemed like it didn't just come out of nowhere to
Mm-hmm.
me. It was still a script he was following. It was just a different script than I had ever heard.
Gotcha.
So I came home. We have the internet. I started Googling, what is this thing that he mentioned? And then I learned, I hadn't known the temple ceremony had changed. We were taught it was restored by Joseph Smith from ancient days, and this was the same thing they were doing in ancient temples. And um, turns out it's not, and I was shocked by that.
Mm.
So I thought, well, oh my gosh, if this is different, and on the site that I had Googled and found, it had some other stuff. So I thought, could this be true too? And I looked into that. It was like Joseph Smith had a gun when he was martyred, and he shot out the door of the Carthage jail and killed. They didn't die immediately, but there were like two or three people that died later from the
Mm-hmm.
wounds. From he shot him, which was not really like a lamb to the slaughter, like we had been taught. And even though it's interesting because it's in the open, it's in the Doctrine and Covenants that this happened, but in all the lessons I'd had, we didn't
Mm-hmm.
get into that, and I wasn't diligent enough to read it on my own and understand what's going on.
But how it was feeling was this spiraling. It was unraveling. It was
It was unraveling
devastating.
the fantastical narrative
Right.
that I had been, that I believed I was finding out wasn't as fantastical as I had
Right.
thought.
As you even wanted it or needed it to be, you could say.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I got released. And then after that, it was so hard. It was so hard. I felt like the ground underneath my feet was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Every decision I had made, I felt was based on a lie. I had no steadiness to grab onto. All the moral underpinnings, like why be a good father? Why be a good husband? Why do I want to do anything good? Why do I even want to live?
Mm-hmm.
I was in my head, and it was devastating. And I remember, because it goes so far as to, okay, if the church isn't true, then do I even believe in God?
Of
And I
course.
decided I don't think I believe in God,
Yeah.
because he wouldn't let this happen to me
Right.
in his name, pretty much.
Right. Right. Right.
And I was devastated. It really hurt. So this was 2009, and there was a podcast that came out, Mormon Stories. It was coming out right about then, that talked about basically those things I found on the internet, saying, "Hey, the facade isn't really what you think it is." And I started listening to that. I'd listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
It was like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I'm not crazy. There are other people who are going through the same kind of thing.
It was helpful at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time when I got into it, the podcast host, John Lynn, he was encouraging people to stay into the church, and he not encouraging, he didn't take a position, but he
Right.
was staying in himself and said it could work. It can work. It's okay. Don't panic.
Right.
So just know there are other people going through it.
It was a lifeline,
and
complete lifeline.
Yeah, it was a complete lifeline. I think he may have saved my life through his podcast early on there. And then, but there was one big problem with me just leaving the church and going out and figuring things out on my own, because Michelle and I had been married in the temple. I wanted to have her forever. And I was told, if you don't go through the church, that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle didn't really care so much about what the truth is. She just said, "Hey, I like the community. I like what the church brings in my life, all the good that it brings. And yeah, it's not perfect. And it didn't bother her, because she had been raised with knowing it's imperfect her whole life, pretty much. I didn't. I wasn't. I was raised, this is the way. So I was raised more culty, I would say, than Michelle was.
Well, and okay, so just for some perspective, so you were released in 2009. You didn't leave until 2016. So
right. I didn't resign, put my name on the record.
So there was years.
So years of, Michelle, listen to this podcast. Watch this episode of South Park. What are we going to do going forward? And the new calling was nursery, which I loved. Those little kids are so freaking fun. I love being in the nursery. Those are like, what, 2 to 3 year olds. They're just so fun.
Well, and that little story, I remember I was in the presidency of the women, which again, it mattered to be in a calling that had a title. In a hierarchical system, that matters. And so I get called in and told that this other woman leader, had a revelation again, and really felt like I belonged in the nursery. In that moment, I just remember there was confusion. That's the best answer, is there was just like some confusion, because I could put words to it now. My body was saying something different than what I was being told. And so talking to my person I was her counselor, and she was the president, I said, I was told this basically, and I didn't say it, but my tone was, I don't believe it, is what I'm saying. And I remember her going, yeah, that's not what happened. I knew that you had said, look, I'll be in the nursery. So I'm like, that's why we're getting called in. Like, it's not this revelation. I know that there is this awkwardness, and it's almost like when you have a big old fight and now you have to see each other the next day or whatever. They're trying to, it's like bringing home dumpy flowers after an argument. It was like, I'll give you whatever you want. That's how it kind of felt. Felt like I didn't matter in that transaction, because it was a transaction. And for you, I was happy for you. You had leverage, because it was not good the way that whole thing ended.
Yeah, it was not good.
The thing that was hard, which I think plays into what you were saying, is when you would come to me, you would come with a question, and you would say, what would you do if this and this? Or how do you explain this or this? And I would answer that question, which I think it wasn't okay in your family to just have an opinion. And so that was one way that you could talk about it. And I think it was frustrating to you when I gave you some kind of an answer because I feel like maybe it would have been very different had you said, "Hey, I learned these things and it's making me feel like this." Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not on you, but because it's also on me because I just answered your question and then you would get frustrated and I couldn't figure out, I didn't know what to do because I was feeling shaky in those moments too. So I just answered the questions. And so it was difficult for our relationship because this was really pivotal in our lives. It wasn't just finances. We could get another job or cut back on the budget. And it wasn't just different sex problems and how we're negotiating how often we have, like those things that usually cause divorce. I mean, this was much bigger than that. This was the fundamental way we lived our life. And there was a wedge between us. There was,
Oh, we were having major problems.
right.
I was searching for what the answer was, and I went back and read my journal this morning, and I found this book, The Introvert Advantage, and I decided, oh, the problem is I'm an introvert, and Michelle talks a lot, and so we just need to schedule time where I can have my own time.
Right. That's right.
Right? And you would have like a bath that night or something, or you do something on your own, and I do something on my own, and it's funny because I thought that would solve everything. No, it didn't solve anything.
Yeah, I was like, great, that's what you need. Like it was difficult. I was slow to say, great. I didn't say just, oh, great,
No,
because, you're going to be gone for a whole night or whatever. But I was like, if we can schedule it, I'll make it happen. It was clunky. I didn't just say, oh, that's great, honey, let's go for it. Like, I know I didn't do that. I don't know what I said, but I know it was a little clunky. Or every Thursday or whatever we said, that's your night to do what you want.
yeah,
And the first night you went and brought me home a bunch of kitchen stuff. You bought the kitchen stuff for me. And I was like, okay. And then I don't know if you really did it again.
it didn't give me what I really wanted. I didn't know it at the time. I just thought either I'm doing it wrong or you're doing it wrong because this is the answer. And then
Right.
eventually it just fizzled out.
I know I wish I would have, and you tell me this. I think I just followed your lead. I
Yeah,
think now I would have said, Money, this is what you felt like happened. And, this is what you felt like you need.
right.
Why don't you take this time for yourself? Because my parents fought so
Mm-hmm.
much and I didn't want to break the eggshells we were walking on.
Yep.
So I didn't say anything. And maybe if I had been able to say, hey, Money, if I had been able to be a little bit of the strong one in those moments and
Mm-hmm.
say, you said you needed this. It's okay for you to need this. Da, 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 da. I don't know if that would have changed everything, but I think that was a little bit part of the problem is that I just positioned myself behind you, or below you or whatever. And that wasn't helpful.
Right. The man's supposed to be the leader.
Yeah.
And in my journal, there's several instances where I say, oh, I've learned I'm supposed to be the leader and just lead out. And then that's what will make Michelle love me. It was a little bit of the red pill, like the masculine rah rah that was pushing me. I could see that in my journal.
Oh,
I
interesting.
had read this book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, during that time. And it seems like about 2015, 2016, I bought this book, um, Running on Empty,
Yeah.
Overcoming Childhood Emotional Neglect by Dr. Janice Webb. I started reading it. I got like 15 minutes in. I said, this is not me.
Put a pin in that conversation. It will come up later.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're going to address a lot of this later. But we need to talk about how bad it got
Yeah.
because we're smiling and laughing a little bit about it now. It got
It
bad.
was bad.
There's we have I have some shame about even thoughts I had during that time. Um,
I'm sorry you have shame about that.
Yeah.
because it was that bad.
It was bad.
It, like I said, I cried. I remember measuring the 18 months like every day, which
Yeah.
sounds like not very much when you're like, it's a 5 year period, but then it was just every other day. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like the rest of the time. It was
Yeah.
take as hard of a thing and go to those places you think are past the limit, and that's it. I mean, it was for each of us in such pain. I would have been very relieved to receive. I mean, literally would have celebrated a diagnosis that was not a good one, without a doubt.
Yeah. I was I had suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
I I came close to executing one time, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly it was just the ideation, and it was on my mind probably every day for several years,
Yep.
which is a hard place to be.
One thing that we need to emphasize is that when that thought comes up, that is a level up of energy. So the rest of the time
Mm-hmm.
is below that, to be honest,
Right.
because that is it. That takes some energy to even to have that thought and to have that hope for relief. So if it just
Mm-hmm.
came up once a day, that means that the rest of the time is really low, and it's like crawling through glass. Honestly, it is excruciating. I mean,
Yeah.
emotional pain. I'd take physical pain any day.
Yeah. And I think both of us have said, like you said, with the you'd rather have a diagnosis. We wouldn't mind if we got hit by a truck,
Right.
either one of us, and got taken out. It would be
Relief.
definite relief, and we could move on. But we were stuck together, and we were stuck in our marriage. We would go on our dates and sit through the pain, hold hands still. It was still painful.
We're going to the doctor and we're doing the whole antidepressant depression every few months, changing that. I think we talked about that in
Yep.
my thing. I mean, we were trying to feel better.
Yep. We were working on it. But, and there would be moments, and then,
It was a little bit of a roller coaster.
yeah, major roller coaster. Felt like one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back, slow descent.
Yeah, it did.
Michelle talked about a roller coaster last time. A roller coaster doesn't really quite do it justice because that's going up and down, up and down, up and down. Ours was more like an alpine coaster where you're going down and sometimes there's a little bit of an up, but then back down and you end up at the bottom.
And I don't think it was our love for each other that was in jeopardy
Right.
necessarily, unless that's what you would want to say.
No.
Like, I don't feel like my love for you is ever in jeopardy,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, lucky, because I'm sure there's people that is. I want to acknowledge.
From my point of view, I felt I felt a few things, but I felt completely betrayed because
Mm,
I felt betrayed by the church because they'd lied to me. I felt that
mm-hmm.
I felt betrayed by you because if you really loved me, you would listen to me and try to see my perspective and take my side.
Right.
And I felt just desperate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt I don't care. And I started acting out. Um, started I would drink by myself down in my office during work hours, even sometimes. There was a time you caught me. You still loved me. I don't know. Maybe you should have divorced me then. Um,
But here's the thing: you're describing words, but we need to pause and try and understand that physiologically. So all those things that you just described, they're not just a feeling. It's so much deeper than that. your biology is running amok within those emotions.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the acting out was defense
Yeah.
to try to say I don't care when I really did care a ton.
Right. That's right.
Um,
That takes a lot of effort to to to
yeah,
to force the opposite of what's true.
yeah, to just still go to church
Yeah.
when when I felt so betrayed was
Right.
super damaging and painful for me.
Yeah.
I think so. Things didn't get better. So this was 2009 when this started. So about 2015 and 16, there were a few things that happened. There was the policy of exclusion that came out that talked about how basically gay people are bad and the kids of gay people can't get baptized till they're 18, something like that. And I just thought that's really bad. And
Well,
then
and they have to renounce their parents or something like
yeah,
that.
it
It's
was
like it
bad.
was really bad. It was so yucky.
It was so bad that they said it was a revelation at the time that they came back and said, "Oh, it's just policy," and we're reversing it a couple of years later. Yeah, it was that bad. And also, then what happened was Michelle's mom had passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and her dad wanted to get remarried in the temple, take on a polygamous spouse, and he came over to the house. He was telling us he's going to get married to, and he couldn't remember her name.
Right.
He had to pull out he had a iPod touch at the time, and he had to look up her name in there to tell me her name.
Right.
And we had meetings at Michelle's house about, hey, things need to happen before the marriage, like prenup, and Michelle's mom's headstone needs to be placed first, Michelle said.
Yes, that's right.
And this hadn't gotten done. And the marriage was happening. And I did not approve. I felt like if I were to go to this wedding and support this terrible, awful, hurtful thing happening to my wife because the headstone hadn't been placed, all of her concerns have been pushed to the side. I felt like that would be inconsistent with my values.
Mm-hmm.
And I resigned from the church the night before. I sent my letter in to quitmormon.com and pulled my name off the records, and it was done. And so then the next day of the wedding, I didn't go. And um, I think I told Michelle at the time, I'm throwing a bomb into the dam and it's going to explode. And from here on, things are going to they're going to move. They've been stuck. All this water was built up behind the dam and they'd been stuck there. And I said, I'm breaking it and things are going to happen or not. And we're going forward. Things are going to happen whether they're good or not, I would say, was what I thought would happen. And that's when I went to sleep.
But how did that feel that night before when you when you pushed enter?
I was terrified.
You were terrified.
Yeah, it was really hard.
But you
Really
felt
hard.
like maybe you were doing the better hard thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was choosing integrity is what I felt like.
Mm-hmm.
I was choosing to have integrity and to be true to myself for once.
Yep. Spoiler alert, when the headstone did get put in, uh, it had my mom's name and the new wife's name on the headstone along with my dad.
2 temples on there.
Yeah. I mean, cringe.
Super cringe. Yeah.
And again, like, I mean, during that time, if I pop back into that, I think both of us, but I'm going to speak for myself, I didn't have words completely to understand what was going on, but my body was again saying no. And that's the thing is, it's like, this is so important. And you hardly know her name because we got to remember my mom died October 18th. Their plan was to be married I think it was February 29th was the next year, if I'm correct. We'll have to look that up, 2016. So just a few months had gone by. They had just met, I think, in January.
The way he said that you're going to get married is he told Michelle, you're going to have a new mom.
I think that was when he sealed the sister, actually, but
Yeah, anyway. That's not what you say to your.
and again, we were already like holding on by a thread. And I talked about that. I went and asked them, please, just, okay, if you're going to go get married, just go get married. But can we just not, even as I tell that right now, it doesn't do justice to the feeling because and because it sounds like I'm just making it about me. It's like, can your life just revolve around me? And maybe that was true on one end, but it was just like I hadn't caught my breath yet from my mom dying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was, it was the strangest thing. It was so strange to have my mom die for a number of reasons. Like I said, like her life did not get resolved. So all of a sudden I'm like, she had decades of probably feeling similar to what I feel right now. And she just died. There was no resolve. That was unraveling for me because I'm in the middle of what I know she felt through at least my childhood forward. I don't know if my siblings had that mom, but that's the mom I had. I was sitting in it right then. And then she just died after 8 years in a home. And I was like, what? Like all of a sudden, it changed big time for me because I was like, I don't know if I can do this for decades. And then to pile that on top of it, they end up getting married in March.
Your dad and stepmom.
I don't really call her my stepmom, and I don't want to say her name.
Your dad and that woman.
Yeah, because okay, so spoiler alert too. When my dad passed away, she was awful.
She was terrible. Yeah.
For a 6-year marriage, wow. I'd love an investment to work out like that, like it did for her. She got a whole lot of money for a 6-year investment. She got a really high return on her investment. And she was trying to get more. And she was upset and angry and got a lawyer involved to get more.
And she was nasty to your children. Yeah. And sold heirloom furniture, that kind of thing.
Furniture that was generations old that we wanted. I mean, it was bad. And I'll tell you, the day that my brother, the day that he called and said, how did you know you were right? I mean, that's weird that I'm crying about it, but it was like, I will never not trust my body again. I will never not trust my body again because I knew my body was screaming. I didn't know what to say because I didn't have a story. And now I will just say, my body is screaming no. And that's it. Anyway, sorry to take over for a little bit, but it was really yucky. And I appreciate that you felt that with me and for me because I really couldn't. It was just another man doing what they wanted to do in spite of what I needed at that time. And it was rough.
And Michelle's family, I mean, to Michelle, family is everything. And not just her children and husband, but her siblings as well. She's the youngest of 7. They've always been there for her. She's followed their lead through life and always wanted to fit in, always wanted to be, because she's 7 years younger than her older sibling, than her next closest sibling. She always wanted to fit in and be one of the team, one of the group.
Yeah, because they were all living this different life than me. I'm this little kid and they're doing their teenage, making out with their new boyfriends. And we're going off and toilet papering this person's house. And we've got to answer this person's, got asked to a dance. We got to go answer the, it was, and they're running for student body officer. They're trying out for dance and all this stuff. And it was like amazing to me. I was, I was young, so much younger. It was like, that is like, oh, that was so exciting.
And if you think about what was on TV that Michelle was watching with them, it's Days of Our Lives. It's
And because my parents were having their own difficulties and my siblings would call it out. So I trusted them because they they took care of me and they were more solid.
they really worked hard to look out for you, and they gave you a lot of stability that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
When they got married, they'd have me to their house. I mean, I had multiple parents, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to choose between people did it different ways. And so I felt like I was lucky that I actually got to say, I like that. I don't like that. I like that. I don't like that.
And so, right when you were just about to fit into the group because you had the house, the kids, everything going smooth and great, the good callings, you're just about to be a full-fledged member. Wham!
Yeah.
Your husband has troubles with the church, and that was terrifying to you. That was, you would rather have probably died than have that happen at the time. Actually, you told me some things along those lines. Of course, we say terrible things in the
Right, right,
heat of
right.
the moment when we're expressing our emotions. And I took them as gospel and wrote them down.
Yeah.
The things, some of the things you would say, and you, I'm sure, did some things I would say. And oh gosh, if I could take those back. But we'll continue talking about that as we go through the podcast. So 2016, I resigned from the church. Michelle's father's remarried. And I feel Michelle distancing from me, slipping away. And I go to sleep. I'm sleeping. I have no energy. We talked about that last time. For about a year and a half, no energy. And she wrote me that letter and said, "Hey, I think you should get rebaptized." Came Christmas Eve. Hey, and I had put off getting anything else, maybe subconsciously, to say, "All right, I'll." I the way I thought about it was, "Hey, I can die now, or I can get rebaptized. What do I care? Either way."
Right.
So the bishop had been called as the stake president. So I took the effort to go to the stake president, who was my old bishop who I had the conflict with,
Yeah.
and asked to get rebaptized, and ended up getting rebaptized. And it was super hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it helped a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It helped a little bit. It helped me feel not so ostracized from my community, and maybe like there was a little bit of hope with Michelle, just a little bit. So I think it was about February I got rebaptized.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started waking up a little bit, and I got mad about when I started looking at the finances. I didn't look at the finances forever. And I saw that Michelle had been paying for Jackson's mission or something. And we didn't have good communication because I wasn't even awake to talk to at this time. But and she had started getting to energy work, which my perception on the energy work was it's just church on steroids. It's all about emotions, and it's all about trusting your feelings, and all that proved out to be BS from the church. So therefore she's just giving me a big middle finger.
Right.
And I got very angry.
Mm-hmm.
And about July, I think I went and saw a divorce attorney and thought uh, that process looked okay, not bad,
Mm-hmm.
but I really didn't want to lose Michelle
Mm-hmm.
because I knew she is a treasure, and part of me knew that if I lost you, I would not be happy. I would take my problems with me to the next relationship too. I didn't see a way forward. And so, as a last ditch Hail Mary,
Yeah.
that's when we got into see Jackie and decided to go to couples therapy again, with the hope that maybe it could go better this time.
Yeah.
And we had, through this time, we were still trying. We were still fighting a little bit. Maybe before I went to sleep, I think we had gone to, I had called the employee assistance program. I'd gone to my 6 sessions. I took a class. We took a class together there on relationships. We learned about the Gottmans. We learned some tools
Yeah.
that maybe helped us survive, but we were not getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that time we probably could have gotten divorced, and we probably would have found our way to healing eventually. Maybe there's a chance, or we might not have.
Like with each other or just individually?
Individually,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have been able to be around each other, I think, because we love each other so much. It would have been too painful. We would have had to internalize disliking each other.
Right. Yeah.
So we ended up in therapy.
I think it was August of 2019 we started therapy.
August of 2019. I think we had, and in August or July, I had bought a motorcycle because I was mad about the money stuff. So I said, I'm going to spend some money on myself. I'm not doing all this working for me to get no enjoyment out of it. So I bought this motorcycle. It was a Honda Goldwing, and I'd dreamed of going on a big trip with Michelle. I think we had 2 sessions of therapy under our belt.
And we had this big trip planned because it was our 25th anniversary.
Big trip planned. 10 days.
What's funny is I was completely optimistic. I was like, Money, this trip, like, this is the make it or break it. Like, and it wasn't like a warning. It was more like,
yep, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, it was like, we'll know by the end of this where we're at. And I had the hopeful feeling. I don't know if that came across that way to you, if anyway, but I was hopeful for whatever reason. I look back, I'm like, what were you freaking hopeful for? Because we'd had 2 therapy sessions. Yeah. But again, my body was saying, this is it. Well, however this happens, we're going to consciously move in this direction. And I don't know how it looks at the end. So we kind of ended in that episode, beginning with this trip that we're going to take. And we'll get into that in the next episode in more detail and things that we really learned there. But what was it like to record that episode, that really difficult episode, from your perspective?
It was very hard. We had a plan afterwards to either do like a energy work session. Michelle gives me some attention, or I was going to go on a motorcycle ride and get away for a while and just relax, chill. But I did not feel well enough to go on the motorcycle ride. My head was feeling like I kind of got a headache. It felt like when I first got on antidepressants at very first, very tired brain.
Yes.
Like the trauma had come back, and I chilled out, numbed out in front of the TV, just relaxed, didn't do hardly anything that day. Mm-hmm. And that was what I needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was very hard.
Yeah.
I don't want to record another one like that.
No. So I think that was some of the first times that you've really told some of those stories out loud, because funny thing, we haven't really told those stories even in therapy. They haven't come up, interestingly enough.
Right.
And what's even more interesting is that it sounds like it was probably the right move. It wasn't us just telling our sad stories. Yeah,
therapy, it felt for the first 4 months. I mean, this was September. We went on this trip, and it was the end of November. We'd been going to therapy weekly, and I told Jackie, we are not making progress. Right. When are we going to address these things that happened in the past?
Right. She was quick to answer, but I had the same thing. I mean, I think I was just a few weeks in, and I thought, I would go into an energy session and at least come out feeling better. Coming out of therapy was, it was painful.
Jackie said therapy is like surgery. Get your body on the table, cut it all up, and then reassemble it back together.
With no anesthesia.
With no anesthesia. It is really painful. It's hard and uncomfortable.
Right. And here's the thing I would ask you, and I'll tell mine. I don't know if there was an agenda. You know, it wasn't like, okay, today we're working on this part of your body. Cut. Like, it wasn't, there was no agenda to it that we understood. There wasn't bringing up old things, and we weren't rehashing an argument we had, and she's there refereeing it, which those are the kind of the things you would think would be couples therapy. That was not it at all. I don't know how, where and how we got to where we got. It just happens, and there's just a trust, and that's maybe the hardest part, is you just have to trust the way that it works. And but I think that's really interesting to bring up, that therapy, at least for us, isn't what you think. It's not solving all those little issues. I get 50% of the time, you get 50% of the time. Okay, that's not negotiation at all. Never, at least never was. And we've been, like we said, therapy before, and it really kind of wasn't that either, but we had never gotten to the bottom, and Jackie never said, there's your problem. And she never pointed out, rarely, like months later, she'd like, well, we do know about your story, and she'd get that, she'd get the lipstick or take a drink because she's getting ready to kind of truth bomb, and and just like, we kind of know for your story, like that's why this makes sense for you to be upset about. And all those moments were like,
yes.
She was never a referee.
She never came into our therapy session with a homework assignment pre-planned.
No.
And she hardly ever gave us homework.
She was never taking notes.
She never took notes.
But she always remembered every detail of what was happening for us, which was shocking to me.
Remember my mom's name, brother's name, friend's name.
Yeah.
Amazing memory.
She really is special.
Yeah, for sure. We got lucky in so many ways. I don't think we could tell someone else to do it the way we did it. We got lucky. I was able to get the work time to go to therapy. We could afford it. It was super expensive.
Yeah, we were paying cash at the beginning, especially.
It's worth it. I'd probably pay 10 times as much now for the same benefit, but I didn't know at that time it would be that beneficial. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got really lucky. So we're not saying do it like we did. We're saying do what you can.
Right.
And hopefully listening to podcasts, there's so many good podcasts these days. There's so many good books out there. You can do it if you don't have the privilege of being able to go to therapy or you're too scared. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Keep listening. We got books coming.
Yep.
That will help out.
Yeah, we want to normalize what's really happening for you, that it's not just you. Your body is reacting in a way that it's meant to, and that we can work through feeling better. I think that's what we're really wanting to do with this podcast, because I don't know about you, it's amazing that we are where we're at. To me, if it's possible for us, it's possible for anyone.
And it's so good now. I want other people to have some of the benefit that we had, to share the goodness.
Right.
I heard someone say recently, you have to give away your recovery in order to keep it. And that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. I think that's my goal. I think you have the same goal too.
Yep. I love it. I love that. Is there anything else that you want to discuss as far as that recording? Was there any story that you want to retell or explain or?
No, at this point, I've not re-listened to it. Can I reserve the right to amend later?
Of course.
Okay.
Well, you did really well. And the one thing I know is that we as humans are more alike than not. And so if you're having an experience, chances are a percentage of the world knows what that's like. And the hardest part is feeling like you're going through it alone. So for you to share what happened to you and what that felt like for you especially is important, because I hope that people can begin to recognize those feelings within themselves and organize them in the right spots of where they come from and what part they're meant to play in our lives. That's the journey.
that's the journey. Let's go.